Hey folks, welcome back. We're back at Mom's house. We are going to work on the back of Ramona's game board quilt. And the idea that we had is to not only have a game on the front, but we want to put her a game on the back as well. And we'll show you how we're going to do that. So what we've decided to do on the back, we're going to do a tic-tac-toe board because she loves playing tic-tac-toe, and she can use her same big checkers to play tic-tac-toe with because they're two different colors. So the front of the quilt, her checkerboard, turned out to be 40 inches total width with the border. So we need to make the back close to 40 inches. There's what she looked like done if you didn't see it in the last video. You got sunflowers and another little pattern. So we need to make this 40 inches. We've determined that our stripes that we want are going to be 1.25 inches wide. This is a little wider because we're allowing for the seam. We'll explain that in a minute. So if we want 40 inches, we need to allow for those two stripes, which is 1.25 inches. So that would be 2.5 inches if you add that together. So if you take 2.5 inches out of 40, that leaves you 37.5. So if you divide 37.5 by 3, you're going to get 12.5. So with these three squares, we're going to have hems on all the sides, 1/2 inch hems. So each square is going to have an inch added. So instead of 12.5, we'll cut all these squares 13.5. That allows for the hem. And then these are cut at 2.25. So with a 1/2 inch hem, that'll end up with an 1.25 inch wide strip.
So we'll have one seam running here, one strip. We'll have another strip over there. And then we will also have stripes going down this way here. Yep. And also here.
So the stripes, when she sews them in, she'll have to cut 2 pieces at 13.5, and she'll sew these 3 squares together, and then she'll do that with all 3 sections. She'll sew this seam, this seam, this seam, and this seam. And then once that's done, then we'll take a long strip, full length like this one, and we can sew that all the way across there and all the way across there. Once all those 3 are put together, and then we'll have a checkerboard.
No, we'll have a tic-tac-toe.
Well, tic-tac-toe board, yeah. All right, it's coming together good. We've only got one more strip to sew in, and then the back side of the quilt will be done. It's got our big tic-tac-toe board. All right, Mom got the tic-tac-toe portion done for the back. Got all the seams sewn together. And this is the checkerboard on the front. So now the process is we take this down to the Quilting Shop, and they'll put a thin layer of batting in between, and then they have a machine to do the quilting. Actually, it does all these cool designs sewn through all 3 layers and keeps everything together. And then when that's done, they will re-square, make sure the edges are all good, and then there's a binding. It's called a binding that gets sewn all the way around the outside edge, and then this quilt was done. What do you think about this project, Mom?
I think it's great. It's a lot of work, and I enjoy doing it because it's for somebody special. And the purpose of us having it quilted by machine is that all of these this is going to be on the floor, and it's going to be wallered around. And all those little stitches is going to hold all these seams together to keep it from being, because the kids are rough on stuff, so it'll keep it from being torn apart. After all the work that's been put into it, you don't want to have to have it all come apart.
I talked to the quilting lady the other day. They're 6 weeks out, so you'll see it on this video, but it's going to take a while to get this done. Hopefully they'll get it done early because it's a smaller one.
We're on the list, and she said to go ahead and bring it in. I told her to call me when they were ready, but she said no, go ahead and bring it in. And I'm thinking that they think it's a small project, they might just go ahead and be able to get it done. I told her it had to be shipped to California.
Maybe. All right, so you'll see when we do that. All right, folks, it's been quite some time, but we are here at the Quilt Shop, and they say they're going to start quilting Ramona's quilt. Been waiting a while. We're glad we got the call. All right, we're here with Susie at the Quilting Shack, and she's got Ramona's quilt in this big quilting machine. It does it all computerized stitching pattern. She's going to explain to us about the stitching pattern she's going to use on the quilt.
So we're looking at maybe this pattern that looks, it's kind of simple, but
Okay.
because we don't want to overpower the quilt, we want to do something simple.
Okay.
Or we might do this one, as is also a very simple one because I can expand it to make it look larger.
Gotcha.
So
So you've got all kinds of different patterns
Yeah.
that this machine will do.
yes, it's amazing how many patterns we have. I also was looking at this one because it kind of reminded me of a kind of a hangman type of effect
Yeah.
to give it your same type of look that you have of games.
Yeah.
So this is my first one that I'm going to try on the machine.
Okay.
So what I do is I'm going to set up the edge to edge. I will set it up to create a pattern, an area, and then I will drop in each one of these designs and set it up in there and take a look as to how it looks in
Okay.
there. If it looks nice, we'll go with that pattern. If it doesn't fit, I'll take that one out and try a different pattern.
Okay.
So
Now, Susie has also told me whenever you bring a quilt in for quilting, you want an extra, you said like 4 inches?
4 inches on the backing.
4 inches on just the backing to allow the machine to work correctly, and
On the edges.
that way your pattern gets all the way out to the edges.
Correct. So we're going to go and walk around the machine.
Now, she also told me that the machine doesn't do the whole thing at a time. It'll do a strip, and then you have to roll the quilt, and it'll do another strip. So it's not doing the whole quilt at one time.
But it's very cool.
Yeah, super cool. If you can imagine what our grandmothers did when making these quilts, hand stitching all of these stitches back in the day, it was easy to get like 1,000 hours into a quilt. And that's why my grandmother's quilt sits in my closet in plastic, and I'm afraid to use it.
So what I'm doing is I'm creating an area on the machine. And if you can see this now, I've created an area here. This is the pink area. And so now I'm going to go into my designs. And as you can see, I have a gazillion designs in there.
Yep. All
So-
preloaded into the machine.
All preloaded. So the first one I'm going to go to is Carly Porter. And that is the one that we had picked that kind of looks like a hangman.
Yep.
So here it is here. And what I do is I'm going to set it to fill. Well, that's not going to fit my machine, so I have to add.
You have to scale it to fit
I
in
have
that
to
strip.
scale. Yes. So I have to do a lot of little tricky things to make it fit into the machine,
There you go.
because I have to be able, I only have so much throat space here to make it fit. And
Okay.
so this is where, where this orange bar is right here, that's called my crosshair. So from here to here is going to be one of those patterns.
Okay.
And that looks like a pretty good,
Yeah.
it looks like a pretty good pattern. I actually
Yeah.
kind of like that.
I do too.
And so that's going to go across. But if we wanted to make it smaller,
You could do 2 of those patterns
I
across,
could
or
make
make
it,
your,
I could make it smaller.
make your area smaller.
And all I did was I added another line into it.
Gotcha.
And that kind of looks a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because that other one was pretty big, and this
Yeah.
is kind of a smaller quilt.
Yeah.
So I think I like that one a little bit better, because now that orange crosshair right there, now if we go up, that's how big it's going to be.
Sweet.
That looks a lot better,
I think so.
because if we come across, that's where it's going to be. So that's kind of a nice fit.
I think so.
Fits pretty good.
Now, Susie, what's the purpose of quilting?
The purpose of quilting is you've put so much time and effort into it. Instead of going and tying all of this.
Which is what my grandma used to do. I think she called it darting.
Yes, and in the good old days when they used to just tie it, they end up coming apart. And of course, what they also used to do was all of it by hand in the looms.
Yeah.
We can't do that anymore. It takes up so much time. With this will be done in a couple of hours. I'll be able to get this across and be done. This pattern is so quick, it will go really pretty fast, and it will be an easy pattern, because once this goes once across, this little dotted line is going to tell me, okay, you got to the end here, now you're going to roll it. And so we're going to set this up now.
Okay.
And we're going to see how it goes.
Now, you're putting a batting in between the front and the back panels.
Yes. So here's your backing that we had to add that little bit of, we just added some muslin to it, so we were able to attach it to the leader here.
Okay.
To make it fit. So we're kind of in a little bind here because of the top. We're gonna be really close on this.
Yeah,
so
because we didn't add any.
Yeah, so it will be okay, because all we're gonna do then is when this comes off the frame, we will square it up for you.
Okay.
Make it nice and neat, and so whatever goes out to that outside edge, we'll make it nice and neat.
And the binding's going to cover some of that on the
Exactly.
outside
Yep.
edge. Okay.
Yep. So it will be all nice and neat.
Now, how do you determine what thickness of batting to put in that?
We just use what we have here.
Standard, there's like a standard thickness?
Yep.
I know my grandma used a lot thicker stuff in some of hers. There
Yes.
was different thicknesses.
Yes. And now it's pretty much a standard, either an 80-20, which is 80% cotton with a 20% poly in it, or a bamboo that we have that we're just loving, that's quilts so nicely. It's just amazing. So
Now, the quilting kind of gives the quilt a kind of a texture too, doesn't it? Once it's
does.
stitched through the batting, kind of like auto upholstery, how
Yep.
the stitching provides the texture.
Yep.
This will have somewhat of a texture after it's
It
quilted.
will. Yep. So we're going to give this a try
All right.
and hope that all goes well.
All right. We'll come back when this machine is working.
Well, it's going to be working right now.
It's already working.
Yeah. Off it goes. It starts doing it all by itself. And you see I've set it so that it's only going directly to the top edge. So you can see the pattern on the black, and you can see it. So it actually looks really cool. I like it.
Yeah. It's going to look nice on the border too.
Yes.
And then the width that you did will look really nice on the edges as well, because you'll have almost a full pattern on the edges.
Correct. So that's why I made that extra one in there, so that it showed just
I think if
enough.
we were bigger, that would have looked weird.
It would have looked weird.
You'd have been,
Yep.
you wouldn't have seen the whole pattern.
Right. So with the quilt, I have a habit of always holding it. I just do that because I want to make sure that it's going nice and neat and is just being good. Sometimes the machine will, just kind of go kind of wonky on me, and I don't want it to do that. So voila.
Yeah, you definitely wouldn't want something to mess up somebody's
No,
quilt
in
they
the
put so
middle.
much time
Nope.
into.
So there's our first row.
Wow, that's
How
amazing.
fast that it went.
That looks pretty cool.
And so now it's telling me to make my long jump. So I take it.
So do you have to cut the thread to
I
make
cut
your
my
jump?
threads. Yeah, I cut my threads. And this is where I take it and I have to drag my machine back over. I just do a simple drop my needle. I have to hit my drag and drop. And then I come over here. Chamber book sweater. I don't know anything about it.
So the machine goes with it as you roll it.
Yes, my pattern is going with it as well, so that I make sure that it's going, and so every time that I roll, I make sure that my batting is smooth again, that my top is being smooth again. I always make sure that everything is perfectly in line because I don't want there to be any bulges, bumps, or anything. And as you get used to doing this, you know the feel of what's happening underneath there.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those things that you start to learn it. I'll tell you, in the beginning it was learning by fire.
Well, there's a learning curve on everything. The more you do it, the
So-
better you get at it.
Then I have to always make sure that my crosshairs, that I am not too far up and not too far down,
So you're not hitting anything.
so I'm not hitting my bar up here.
Yeah, you're almost with that little knob there, almost hitting that.
Yep.
Now if you had a big quilt, how would you keep from hitting your little knob
I
here?
wouldn't be
You wouldn't go so
I
far
wouldn't
back.
go so far back.
You can see the ladybugs on the back and the snails.
Does it look good on the back? I haven't even
Yeah.
taken a look on it.
It's gonna look great.
Oh yeah, I like it.
Now the pattern that we did for Ramona's quilt was pretty basic, but look at some of this stuff that people do. Look at all these little intricate little squares and patterns. Just beautiful. This one's called Amish with a Twist. It's actually a pattern that somebody made, but just crazy cool. Now, people that are getting into quilting, they're making patterns now that you can actually buy. Instead of hand quilting everything yourself, you can buy the pattern, put it together with some backing and some batting in between, and have like a ready-made quilt. They have some really cool patterns that you can buy all for all different seasons. You can see here there's a Christmas tree and Santa Claus and all that. But you would take something like this, put it in the middle, and then you would do like a border around it, because that's obviously not big enough for a quilt, but that would be your like your big centerpiece in your quilt. And then you'd put all that together, do a nice trim around it, and then quilt the whole thing, and it's pretty cool. Here's one that's in another machine here, but that's a beautiful design too. That's just gorgeous. There's like a nice fall pattern that you could get to make like a fall quilt. Here's one you could make for like a child here. And all kinds of different designs you can go with. There's one for doctors and nurses.
I did what? Yeah, you won $20 at the chamber box. Okay. Where do I pick
Here's
them up
one
at?
with some
The
animals in it.
quilting, and then she cut off, and I said,
And then my absolute favorite over here
okay,
with all the old pickups. You would take all these squares and you would cut them out, and these would be your quilting squares here. And you would add other material in between. So this is obviously not big enough to be a quilt, like we said with the other ones. So you would cut all these apart, add other material in between to make your quilt, and then add borders and stuff, and then you'd have a really cool looking quilt. I absolutely love this pattern here with the old pickups and all this. There's some real patriotic stuff over here. Oh, cool. Another old red pickup. Love those. Those are so awesome. And not only do they have material here and your quilting supplies, they have all your sewing supplies. These are all your rulers and patterns and stuff for when you're cutting out your squares. And they have all your thread, everything you would ever need to do a quilt here in this store. We just bought Kelly, or I bought Kelly, a sewing machine here for Christmas, and she just absolutely loves it. All right, Susie, we are going to leave you to this, and we thank you very much for helping us with this and explaining everything to us.
You are quite welcome. Anytime that I can ever help anybody, you just let me know. We're always here to help.
All right, and if you're ever in the area, the Quilt Shack here in Broken Bow, Nebraska, they do a real fantastic job, and they got lots of nice stuff in here. Kelly's really loving her machine, by the way.
Awesome. That's great.
All right.
All right. You
Thank
all
you,
have
Susie.
a Merry Christmas, and thanks for stopping by and doing this.
Thank you. All right, we're back here at Mom's with Ramona's quilt. Now that it's been quilted, we're putting the binding on. So tell them what you're doing, Mom.
Okay, the binding is cut the width you want it to be. Then you have to fold it over and press it.
So it was a 2-inch wide binding, and you fold it over, making it 1 inch.
Yes.
And
Well,
the-
it's actually a fraction more than an inch. But then now...
So the two loose ends are here on top, right? And then you got a clean edge, folded edge on the bottom.
Yes.
And
This
then
is on the side from
then you
where we're
sew-
going to turn. Well, just a minute. This is on the side from where we're going to turn it. Then once all it's sewed on, then we're going to flip it over. And it's going to come over on the... Because we have this pattern on the other side, this is going to be folded over, and this is going to be sewed down on the opposite side,
So you got,
of which we already have stripes of
Yeah.
black on it.
so you got a nice clean edge on both
yes,
sides.
so
There's
yes, it'll be clean there,
no raw edges.
and it'll be clean there.
Okay. All right, folks, there it is. Got the binding all the way around. Looking really good. Let's show them the back. This is the checker side.
Isn't it beautiful?
Yeah. And then that is the tic-tac-toe side. Pretty cool. I think Ramona's going to love it.
I believe so.
And her great-grandma made it. All right, folks, that wraps this project finally after quite a long while. But we hope you enjoyed it. And we hope maybe you learned something. And maybe you're going to try something like this on your own. So, for me and Mom, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys.
And have a Merry, Merry Christmas from us to all of you.
And a Happy New Year. I guess I need to get down here shorter.
Love you.
All right, catch you later.
Bye.